You today.
Very good, Steve. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being patient. And you know, on the way here, I actually saw you. You were conversing with the Vietnam vet out there in front of Stop and Shop, and that kind of made me feel good that you took the time to listen to his plight.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But no thanks is needed. The veterans give a lot for this country, for each and every one of us. I mean, I know a lot of them personally. I've worked with a lot of them, and they're away from home much of the year. They come back, and there's a lot of stuff that they come back with, and just a little, offering to buy a cup of coffee, holding a door, just shaking their hand. I know it means the world to them, and thank you, Steve. But
it was nice to see that because we go way back, and I think that's where we created this friendship a long, long time ago. But tell Long Island what you're doing and what you're here today for.
The reason I'm here is that, Steve was very generous and asked me to speak on the show, and we're going to be talking about art today. I'm a fine artist. I paint pictures, do portraits, a lot of work based on the old technique of painting, the likes of Claude Monet, Diego Velázquez, Francisco Goya, even Van Gogh. And the question which I brought up to Steve was that whether technology has helped or hurt the arts today. And I think it's a very difficult question to answer, but my take on it is that it has made the arts more accessible. Reason being is that, anyone can go buy a software, download an app, and do some really decent photo editing without any understanding of, the fundamentals, without understanding of perspective, foreshortening, color theory, and you get some really beautiful pieces of work. However, the take that I have on it is that it's very hard to develop a sentimental attachment to a very generic piece of art. And what do I mean by that? In the studio here, I have a few, pieces of work with me. I know the listeners at home can't see it, but what it is, it's a painting of a parrot. Very simple, a parrot wearing a beret, actually, a green parrot wearing a red beret. And what's going on here, it's a lot of brush strokes. I'm not sitting there painting each individual feather. I didn't paint the parrot's eye perfectly. I didn't even paint the beak perfectly. I let the strokes do the work for me. Now, Steve, if you notice on the parrot itself, there's some really dark green.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think I made that dark green? What color do you think I mixed with the lead green to get that dark green?
I would imagine coupled with maybe brown and yellow?
No, not brown and yellow. Red.
Red.
Red and green gave me that almost black, dark, hunter green appearance.
Wow.
That's hard to believe, but that's basic color theory. And what Steve, I see Steve's face there in the studio. He's analyzing the piece. He's looking at it.
I am a psychologist, by the way, so
Oh.
I am analyzing this.
Yeah, I guess you really can't help it, but
I'm wondering the beret and the parrot, so I'm like, But
yeah, a little bit of comedy. He's the artist psychic. That's actually my parrot Shaggy. He's
Gotcha.
a 7-year-old Quaker parrot.
Beautiful.
But what Steve is doing, what all of us are doing when we look at the world, we perceive the world, we perceive colors, we speak a language that many of us don't know we speak. I'm looking at the studio. Steve is wearing what is that? A maroon, purple, purple. Portia's wearing brown. The other gentleman's wearing white. But without us realizing it, our brain is performing many complex calculations, making sense of all of these different things. Now, with that being said, when you make a good piece of artwork, like the parrot, even we have a Van Gogh behind us very conveniently. Mr. Van Gogh, Mr. Monet, Mr. Da Vinci, they didn't sit there and paint perfect skylines and, perfect human form and perfect parrots or anything. What they did was that they used the strokes to put pieces of the puzzle there, and they allowed the viewers to come to their own conclusion, to develop a relationship with the piece, to, come up with their own understanding. That's how you build a sentimental attachment to a piece. Whereas, if I had made a picture of a parrot with an app on my phone or my computer, Steve would have looked at it for maybe a second, oh, that's nice, and he would not have built his own understanding of the beret or try to understand why did the artist do what he did. And in that sense, I think the technology has definitely steered us away from the fundamentals and, color theory and proportion, obviously. I mean, we can take a photo, tint it through a filter and get a whole new photo. But consequently, we are, really, really getting away from what art is and the language that we all naturally speak. Like, if I took black and painted that parrot black, the dark spots in the parrot, it wouldn't make sense to you because you're speaking this language here. Your mind is calculating all of these colors and making sense of it. trying to make sense of it. If I shaded those dark feathers with black, you would say, Matt, why did you dip your parrot in charcoal or tar? That's what it looks like. Because although you may not really know it, your mind is telling you something is wrong. And my style of artwork goes back to the old traditions of, namely Claude Monet. He's my biggest influence, and those old works of art that sometimes 200, 300, 400 years old, they never get old. Because every time you look at it, just like I'm looking at a Van Gogh right here in the office, in the studio rather, as I'm looking at it, I'm coming up with my own interpretation of it based on my mood. Van Gogh didn't paint a perfect cloud or, a perfect moon. He's creating motion with the strokes of the brush, and you see the texture, you see the depth of it. And, as everyone is turning around to look at it, they're coming up with their own interpretation of what's going on. And that's how you develop a sentimental attachment to a piece of art. I mean, I've done portraits before of people who've passed away, of loved ones, for their families, for coworkers, and the same techniques. I'm not sitting there painting a perfect eye, a perfect nose, a perfect head of hair. I'm putting the colors there in a way that makes sense, but also in a way that allows the viewer to come to their own understanding of the picture. And even one of my portraits, people standing in front of it and crying. They talk to it because it reminds them of their departed, and doing that to a piece of art adds a value on it with no price tag.
So is that important too, to get the connection between what that person is thinking or feeling, or that sentimental value that's connected with, in this case, the bird, but also with loved ones, to see that and then to see the artwork that you do?
Oh, absolutely, Steve. What you're trying to do is, almost recreate the life form that the person had. And as I'm looking at your face across the desk here for me, I'm seeing, this is the way I see the world. I'm not seeing eyes and, a nose, a mouth, headphones, a microphone. I'm seeing shades of gray, shades of red, shades of yellow, and we're all seeing this that way, Steve.
Yeah.
That's why when you see me, that's what, that's the form that, okay, this is what Matthew looks like, and
right.
that, that's him. So that is very, very important to get that down pat. Because if you can't understand that basic function, and you're trying to recreate a piece of art that someone will be sentimentally attached to, you may come up with something that looks really good, but it won't have that pull, that it won't command, that type of attention, and mainly people won't want to pay for it.
Right.
And that's what I think the apps and all that take away from.
Right, I was going to say that modern technology, that kind of takes away from the creativity of the
right.
artist, and I was going to say, how far back do you go when you first started doing artwork?
I started doing artwork when I was 4 years old. My mother bought me a 8-pack of Crayola crayons, my first set of crayons, and I noticed I had a knack for it because while we were learning things in school about, history, we would learn about the Boston Tea Party, I remember. I never took notes. I would be drawing the Boston Tea Party, Native Americans throwing the tea over the bridge, and that was my notebook. That's how I saw the world, in shape and form and color. So it probably started when I was 4, and as I got older, my technique evolved. I studied the works of, the great artists of the past, and I always said to myself, there's got to be a reason why, after hundreds of years, that people still value these pieces of art the way they do, as if they were just, recently commissioned or made, and it's fascinating.
So since you're 4, you must have so much artwork in your home or storage or sold.